Hello, it's Sydney, and I'm here to give a quick PSA before you guys get to actually watch the episode because this is undoubtedly our most triggering episode to date. Our friend Evelin goes into very precise detail about her abusive relationship. So she discusses physical abuse, verbal abuse, suicide, eating disorders, and all of that. For people who might struggle hearing those topics, I thought it would be really, really appropriate to just give you guys that PSA/trigger warning. And also, I think it's important to be mindful of the resources at our disposal in the event that these things happen to us and in the event that we actually resonate with what Evelin experienced. So the phone number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 800-799-7233. And you can text START in all caps to 88788. I'm going to put all this information in the description below. I'm going to put the website in the description below, and I'm also going to put some tips on how to identify abuse in the description below. And that's really all I have to say on the matter. Please, 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 if you feel like you're in an abusive situation, take advantage of these resources, and don't isolate yourself from the people around you who really, really care about you. And also, as always, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment because I'm going to be giving you guys weekly uploads for as long as I can. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode.
I guess for clarification's sake, I was in an official abusive relationship for 6 months on D&D, and then he called me and he's like, I'm gonna jump. And I said, what? You're gonna what? He was like, I'm on top of this building and I'm going to jump Evelin. I can't do this anymore. And had a psychotic break.
Wait, that's how he did it? That's how he said it? Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump?
Yeah. I remember him basically pinning me against a wall and yelling at me.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning. He basically pinned me up against a wall and yelled at me and said, why do you keep hurting me? Why do you love hurting me so much? You do this to me. And I remember just sobbing and being just let me go. Let me go to my car. I'll be fine. I won't drive. He made such a comment where he was like, I get insecure that you work out because I don't want you to be hotter than me or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or because he was
already too late for that.
He was saying that I was going to demasculate him. And I was like,
okay, everybody, welcome to the Safe Space Podcast. I'm your host, Sydney Rosant.
And I'm Aisha Savar, and today we got a lovely guest here. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Evelin Pedro, and I'm a Libra.
She is Evelin Pedro, and she's a Libra. What's it called? If you're welcome to, put any of your socials around here if you want people to follow you or anything.
Yeah, it's Evelin, Evelin, not a Y, .Pedro.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So today we're gonna get into some heavier topics. Probably the heaviest topics that we've gotten into. I feel like so far.
I feel like we should also go ahead and put a trigger warning out there.
Yeah.
This is, like Sydney said, it's gonna be some heavy stuff. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Evelin, you are newly single and you've gotten out of, I guess, what could be described as a tumultuous relationship. So how are you doing as of right now? Where are you at in your healing process and all of that?
I'm honestly doing a lot better. I think in the beginning, kind of coming out of an abusive relationship, which I think it took a while for me to admit that it was an abusive relationship, and really cutting ties with that person has been almost a freeing sense and
don't trip. I got it.
Very healing. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing a lot.
So okay. When would you say you kind of came to the realization that you were in an abusive relationship?
I really don't think so. I guess for clarification's sake, I was in an I guess, an official abusive like relationship for like 6 months, and it was fine within those first 6 months, and then near, I guess, the 3-month mark, it started getting kind of verbally abusive. And it wasn't until maybe like a month ago where I really kind of like sat down and was like, this is beyond a point of toxicity. Because I think, like there's like the whole trend of like, oh, I'm just like a toxic girlfriend, like, like I'm just like a toxic boyfriend. It's like kind of like funny to be, not funny, but like it's kind of like the norm to be in like a toxic relationship. So it's hard to really like distance that idea of like what is toxic and what is simply just like abusive. And I was reaching that point where it's like it reached a point of like this isn't like toxic anymore. It's like full point like abuse. And it took like the friends around me to be like, hey, you should maybe like talk to professionals. And it took me calling like a domestic abuse hotline and telling my story and them saying, yeah, that's abusive. Because I think it took a lot of me, because I like to admit that I like to think I'm strong. And I think anyone who's in an abusive relationship doesn't ever want to admit to it, because one, they don't like to think that the person that they love would ever do something so bad to them. And two, you don't want to admit to yourself that you're like, that you put yourself in this kind of relationship, you know what I mean? Like you think that you're stronger, like I'm too strong to be in an abusive relationship. So, yeah.
So like prior to the 3-month mark where I guess that switch happened, what was the dynamic at that point?
So we were maybe like on and off since my freshman year of college. So it's been like 3 years, and it was a lot of me chasing his attention and me wanting to really be with him. And then we went through this period where we didn't talk to one another, and he reached out. And then maybe the first 2 months of the relationship, it was long distance, and it was very nice, I will say. Like he was very sweet and very caring and very loving and very attentive. And it was like I was with someone who just understood me. We clicked like that. And I thought I would never feel that way again. And I thought I found like my soulmate, as like silly as that sounds. But like before those 3 months marks, I thought I met the one.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. Is there anything that like, we talk about hindsight a lot, things that if you hadn't ended up in the place that you are, if you had seen it then, you probably wouldn't be in like as bad of a, rut in that moment. Is there anything that you can think back on that you're looking at and you're like, okay, that was a red flag, that was maybe not okay?
I think a lot of things. I'm a Libra, so I see things with rose-colored glasses. But he had like a lot of like, trigger warning, a lot of substance abuse issues, which, I mean, everyone has their, demons, and I'm never going to be one to judge. But I think the way he approached his substance abuse and his mental health, I think, was a very red flag. I think that's something that when you look for in a partner, you need to be attentive at. And something that I think I've like really neglected up until that point was really seeing how that person treated themselves. Because if they don't take their issues like seriously and genuinely like try to better themselves beyond a partner, then they're not going to be a good partner in the long run.
A lot of, if you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody
else.
Oh,
100%, as RuPaul would say. Yeah, like
not RuPaul.
Like 100%. Like if you cannot love yourself, you can't love anyone else. At least you can't give them the love that person deserves, and also most importantly the person that, or like the love that you deserve as a person. You know what I mean? Like beyond myself, disconnected. It's sad to see someone that you love and care for and not carry that same respect to themselves.
So when you said like how he was treating himself, did you feel like when he was trying to get better, it was just to kind of maybe placate you or just like make you happy?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. I think he tried to mask it as like, oh, I'm getting better for me, not for you. But then the moment that I left the equation, his destructiveness kind of like came full force. Or whenever I left and we would get back together, he'd be like, oh, well, I was getting better and then you came along. But then, you know what I mean? Like, I think that says a lot too, because they'll use that. I didn't realize it, but like they'll use the way that they're getting better as a way to like kind of gaslight you and make you feel guilty. Because it's like, oh, I'm not getting better for you, but I am getting better for you. But yet you ruining it for me because you're not fitting into my idea of what getting better means. You know what I mean? Like, for me, him getting better was taking his substance abuse issues seriously and really fixing what was harming not only our relationship, but him. And yeah, he just didn't like take it seriously. And I think he used it more as like a manipulation tactic rather than like genuinely him getting better.
So you said after the first 3 months is when you started kind of seeing things go a little downhill.
Yeah.
Can you describe what a little downhill means for you?
Okay, so basically, like, shit hit the fan. Like, I'll just say, shit kind of hit the fan. So, I got, like, a little hey girly text where basically it was, like, my first few months of my relationship was based on a lie, where he was still actively living with his ex-girlfriend and telling her that he loved her, but he was laying in the same bed as me. And while he was like telling me, oh, I like missed you, I like you so much, like I've never felt this way about someone. So, and that was like in January. We started seeing each other again in September. And him and the girl didn't break up until like after my like I think 21st birthday, which he said that he couldn't come down for because he had problems with his like ticket or something, which I guess I should have known was also like a red flag. But you know, I forgave him because I like to see the good in people, and I like to say I'm very understanding, which has gotten me in trouble. But yeah, so I just found out that my relationship was kind of based on a lie, and then it went from me forgiving him to he like made it seem like I was kind of like the villain, I guess. Like the reason why he hid stuff from me is because I was so important to him that he couldn't dare to lose me. But yet that escalated to like, oh, you make me feel so insecure, which is why I've done all these things. Your past makes me feel insecure. So like he took things that I forgave him for and like kind of like ran with it and like twisted them around, if that makes sense. Like it spiraled into like him calling me like a whore like every like week or so. And him basically saying, oh, I don't respect women, which again also should have been like a red flag. But
when you love somebody, you're willing to overlook a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that, because these are all sounding like a lot of things that will, you know, chip away at somebody's trust. And any relationship without the foundation of trust is, you know. So do you think, I'm sure your trust started to diminish, but do you think that you were still like, I don't know, maybe trying to give yourself a reason to trust him? Or like, how was your viewpoint on like, I guess the way that you saw him and the trust that was supposed to be earned towards you during this relationship?
So when I got back together with him, I did say like the trust was very conditional. And I guess the first few weeks after it, he was trying to be more open and more trustworthy. But it's so like funny, I guess. Like it's not funny, but it's funny because he took what I wanted, which was trust, and turned it around and made it seem like I was the untrustworthy one, if that makes sense. So he would be wondering why I like left him on red for like 20 minutes. Like he'd be like, oh, you're like fucking some dude. And I'm like, no, literally I was just like feeding my cat. Like I was busy. So like I would just be like, hey, like if you could like, you know, just like be upfront with me and be more honest with me, and like, you know, just so we can avoid these problems, because that's what the issue was. Like, you know, like, yes, he was still seeing someone, but it's like, if you were upfront and honest with me and genuinely communicated with me, then we would have, you know, been able to avoid a lot of problems. So he took that as a way to kind of like share all his negative emotions on me. So he took like, oh, you said you wanted open communication, you said you wanted me to be honest, to emotionally abusive kind of standard.
Oh, wow. So he used, that's That's crazy. Sorry, I'm like trying to unpack that. So you told him, I want you to be open, honest, and communicate with me.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, so this is how I feel about you. And you can't be mad because you told me to tell you how I feel.
Yeah. And he was like, well, like, I'm getting better. Like, he'd have like a flare up and he'd get really mad one day and like go crazy. But he's like, I'm getting better though. Like, you can't tell me I'm not getting better because I didn't blow up the past few days. And would like use all the things that I wanted against me in a way that I was like, something about this just doesn't seem right. Like, I don't think I necessarily asked for this. Like, I think you're kind of like twisting my words. And he'd be like, nope, this is what you asked for. I'm like, okay, damn, fine.
Oof, Lord.
So,
what would you say was like kind of the breaking point, or at least the point where you started to detach from him?
Oh, wow. So, we had broken up a few like months prior to the actual time that we broke up. I'm a very close person to my family and my friends, and he would make comments that made me kind of see the person that he really was. He made comments like, oh, I don't think you're a whore, but like my friends do. And I think like in your actions make you be perceived as one. So he'd make comments like that, and then he'd say that he wouldn't understand why I'm so close to my family and why I would want to continue being close to my family, because he had this idea that family meant me and him.
So what was his relationship with his family?
Very toxic. Very toxic. I think you can really tell a lot of a person with the way that their family dynamic is and how they choose to describe that family dynamic. Because I don't think that not having a good relationship with your family doesn't mean you cannot be a good person, because every family is different. But I do think the way that they go about it is very telling. He was very detached from his family, and he didn't really understand familial love, if that makes sense. Like, he was just very much like, I don't like my parents. I don't respect my parents.
Oof.
I can't stand to be in the same room as my parents. Like, we'd go out to dinner and it was like I was going out to dinner with like acquaintances. Like, I think I've seen more chemistry with like coworkers who hate each other than like his family, which is so sad, but it's just also very telling of like how he showed love for his family. I think should have been very telling about how he would show love to his partner.
Yeah. I mean, what's the saying that like hurt people. So it's like, obviously there is some, anger and resentment still there. And I think that he's probably just taking all of that and putting it on his other loved ones. And so you're right. Like, how somebody treats their family, it says a lot about how they'll treat you, because like, that's his blood. That's it. That's it. There's nobody else.
Like, I heard him talk
who's gonna be there for him but them, and he hates them.
I heard him talk about his family, and I was like, this woman birthed you, like, out of her, like literally, she went through like hours of hell, and like, you have like nothing but like basically negative things to say about her.
That's so crazy. So it turned his like feelings towards himself and his family turned into him projecting that onto you, like wanting that for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also like his past like girlfriends have, from what he's described to me, have had all like kind of like mom and dad issues, where he has been kind of like their only source of like love. And he met me, which like, I'm Mexican, so like obviously I'm very close to my family, and I have a lot of family, and family has always just been what I've known, you know what I mean? Like, I know what unconditional love is because of my family. And for him that was so foreign. Like, I remember one time he went to a party at my like family's house, and he was making a big fuss that he didn't want to park inside of he didn't want to park inside of the gate. Like, he was like, no, I'm not family, I'm simply your boyfriend. They don't like me, so I deserve to park in the street. And I was like, can you please just park inside? like, this isn't a matter of like love or hate. Just please park inside. There's cars that need to go on the street.
Not him making a fuss about a parking spot.
I was like, please just park inside. You have like a big truck. And it was like a big truck too. So like, he couldn't like park on the street. Like, you would cause an accident. But he was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'll park in the grass. I'm like, you can park in the grass inside the house. Like, that's why it's there. Anyway, yeah.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. So you've kind of told us about, you know, the relationship and how disastrous it kind of was. But like, where are you now currently, and how has the disentanglement been?
It definitely has not been easy. Like I mentioned earlier, this wasn't the first time that we like had broken up, and he never really gave me like a chance to breathe. He'd be constantly messaging me being like, you know, you're making a mistake, like you're gonna miss me, like I'm the only one that'll love you like this. And after like months of being kind of stuck in that, I like learned to believe it. So I got back in a relationship with him. And it wasn't until one like, I guess one very explosive night, where he basically, I have a theory. We have theories that he basically got me drunk. I'm a lightweight and I had not eaten that day. And he kept buying me alcohol, into a point where I was just like not really conscious. And it was going like, it was a really good date up until then. And I remember he started just being like, I'm sorry, I'm not this dude. I'm sorry, I'm not that dude. I'm sorry, I can't be the person that you want. And I was trying to be like, no, that's not it. You know, like, and this, keep in mind, this was like a everyday thing. You know, he would always say this. But then we got back to his apartment and he kind of like broke, and honestly, everything was kind of blurry. But I just kind of remember him basically like pinning me against a wall and yelling at me.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning. He basically pinned me up against a wall and like yelled at me and said, why do you keep hurting me? Why do you love hurting me so much? Like, you do this to me. And I remember just sobbing and being like, just let me go. Like, let me go to my car. Like, I'll be fine. Like, I won't drive. Like, I know that I'm like tipsy, but like, I'll just stay in my car. Like, I get someone to come pick me up. I don't feel safe here. And he looked at me dead in the eyes and goes, I'm not making you feel safe right now? As if like it was like a taunt, like the movie Joker, you know, like, what I mean?
Taunting you?
Yeah, like kind of like that. Like I just pictured the Joker basically when he said that. Like, and then we ended up in the kitchen, and I'm like sitting in like his living room, like sobbing, being like, just please let me go, please. Like, I just want to go. And he never was really like physical towards me. He never like hit me, but he would hit the things around me. He would hit the bed. He would like basically like hit a wall, like whatever kind of was like nearby. He'd like throw it or hit it. And this is trigger warning, self-harm. He went into the kitchen and threw what I can assume was a piece of glass, like a cup or something. And I'm sobbing. He said, why do you like hurting me? And he like began to like cut himself with the piece of glass. And I remember just being like, can you like stop? Like, this is like really scary. Like, I'm like really terrified. And he was like, just go back into my room. And he was like telling me to go back into his room. And I was like, well, fuck, this is where I die. Like, if I die, then like, please pick a good photo of me. Like, if like, don't let my parents pick the photo, because they'll pick some like photo that like was from like 2018. So like, please don't let them pick the photo. And also, I want to be cremated, not buried. So,
so I get putting it out there.
Standards.
It out there.
She has her standards.
So I go back into his room and I'm like sobbing, and I just lay in his bed, and I'm like, if I don't wake up in the morning, then so be it. And he laid in bed with me, and he held me as if like nothing happened. And in the morning, ironically enough, he broke up with me in the morning because he said he couldn't deal with my lies anymore, because I had lied to him, which is what spiraled, I guess, broke him. And yeah, so like that was a breakup. So it took a while for me to like really distance myself from him, because even like after that, he would still text me being like, I miss you, I love you, like I still think about our future, and I'd go along with it, half because I mean I still loved him, and also half because like, what can you really do? Like, that was honestly the scariest night of my life. And some part of me felt like if I didn't keep it going, then it was just gonna
get worse.
Yeah, gonna get worse. And it wasn't until I like took a trip away from him, like thousands of miles away from him, with no access to internet, to really be able to like disconnect from him was so just refreshing and eye-opening. And I remember feeling kind of lighter, you know what I mean? Like, it was like I have a stomach bug right now, so it's like if this stomach bug went away, I'd feel like, you know, brand new, you know what I mean? Like, I'd feel amazing. So it was like getting rid of just so much weight on the back of my, like, on my back, basically, that I don't know,
it lifted a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Not you carrying this relationship on your own.
No, literally.
That's why I'm so short. Literally, because like all the fucking weight just like shrunk me. Like,
she was taller 7 months ago.
I was like, I was maybe close to 5 feet, maybe, but now I'm probably closer to 4 or 5.
Oh wow. Oh my.
Bad relationships can cause you to shrink.
Precisely.
Look it up.
Precisely.
I'm saying it's true.
Look it up.
So I do have a question. We all know having like something so significant in your life be so negative can take a toll on like not just like how you're feeling, but like everything else in your life.
Yeah.
So how do you think this relationship kind of impacted not only the way that you see yourself, but like your relationships with others around?
So at first, my self-esteem has never been super high. And up until I started dating him, I think I was getting back into like being confident, and then it turned into my confidence dependent on him. That I didn't really feel pretty, or I didn't feel worthy unless he gave me that validation, or unless I had him by my side. And I very much was like a serious relationship person. Like I had to always be in a relationship. And I was like, before I saw him, I was getting to that point where I was like, I don't need anyone, you know what I mean? I don't need anyone. And he reverted me back to who I was like a few years ago, which is like this shy 18-year-old girl who just was fresh out of high school looking for some kind of validation to tell her that she's worthy of being loved and worthy of being with someone. So when I got out of it, it was very much finding who I was again, because he took all the parts of me that I loved and people around me loved and told me that that's why people hated me, and that's why I wasn't good enough, and that's why he was the only one that saw me beyond my flaws. When in reality, those weren't flaws. They're what made me me, you know what I mean? Like they're what people loved about me. And it made me look at relationships like, he literally said that the dudes who I like saw after him only saw me as a hole to fuck. And he knew for a good bit of my life that's what I felt like. And so for him to kind of say that, it made me look at new relationships as like, is he right? Like, do all these people see me the way that he says they see me? And I guess now I'm learning to find that love again and come to that realization that just because someone looks at me that way doesn't mean it's true, and that we have, no matter the relationship that you end, you have that power to take who you are back, and you have the power to like rewrite who you think you are. Because now, like, no person, no matter how long you've been with, can ever change the person that you are and change the person. Like, it's really up to you to change the way that you see yourself and the way that you see relationships. Because now I think I have more of a sense of confidence, and we were talking about this earlier, where like when I had dating apps, like it was like I was like, oh, why am I getting like cuter matches though? Like they're kind of like fine, and it was because I found that new confidence in me, you know? I got rid of that one negative thing that was holding me back, making me believe that I deserved people who were lesser, because those are the only ones who would ever see me as that. So anyway, it's a long answer, but like it's really been
a work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress, and finding out who I am, and also learning to you know, find people who are meant for me, you know, and definitely like never lowering my standards.
Hell no.
She said it with the confidence.
Of course not.
Sure.
Because I feel like people who are just, you know, bottom of the barrel, because that's what he is.
A barnacle.
Like, I'm screaming. All they do, they spend all their time just trying to drag others down. And that's just not you. That's not you. And that's why you're not still there. Because everything that he said about you was false. Like, I mean, honestly, and even if those things were true, he wouldn't be there.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Not at
so we don't want to hear it anymore.
Honestly, I feel like everything that you're like expressing to us and you being able to like not only get out of it but like, you know, come on here with a smile still on your face and positivity towards the rest of like what's to come just shows that like just because you're in a bad situation at a point in time, that's not it. That's not it. Things can get better. You just have to want what's best for you. You need to put yourself first sometimes. Even if somebody else feels like it's at the expense of them. I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to have you but you?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And I think the thing you referenced earlier was like being understanding. The one thing I've learned is that being understanding is overrated.
Yes.
Like, you got to take care of you first. Because, like, I feel like, at least for me, and I'm sure for you, it's like sometimes you're just so understanding and you want to like make space for people, but like a lot of times they wouldn't even, that thought to make space for you doesn't even cross their mind.
I don't know.
Doesn't even cross their mind.
Not for a second.
So I feel like understanding is earned at this point. Like, you have to earn that from me. You have to prove that you're worthy of it before I just give it to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you talked a bit about like how you felt. He made you feel almost like when you were 18, fresh out of high school, going into college, you know, when everybody tells you, you got to have an open mind. You got to be open to people. You got to be open to getting to know new things. And I think it's worth saying he's a little older than you, not like by much, but he's older.
Yeah.
And people will take advantage of you.
Yep.
They will.
Yep.
They'll take advantage of your kindness. And I think the worst part about it is not only taking advantage of your kindness, but then making you feel like they're the only person in the world who's going to give you an ounce of respect. When you've been alive for 21 years, almost 22 years, you've known him for what? 2 of them? Say 3 of them?
Right.
And he wasn't even like, you know, a significant person for part of that.
Exactly.
It's like, how is my self-worth and my validation dependent on you, somebody I didn't even know 4 years ago? Like, it's just, we talked about this in another podcast episode where people overestimate the value that they have in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that is a perfect example of somebody doing that.
I mean, it's just the delusions of grandeur, like thinking that like, oh, I'm changing her life. I'm the only one who knows how to love her. And then plus the attempts at isolating you from all your friends, from your family, not understanding like how important family is. Like, that's what abusive people do. That's what abusive people do.
And it's so crazy because like I didn't even know he was really isolating me from my friends or my family. And it was so like crazy to think about because like my friends would make comments, like he would be like, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
You know, like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, I've just been, you know, hanging out with like, what's his face? You know, like I've just been busy. And like I remember, I don't live with my like family, obviously, because I go to college. But he would always make me choose between going home for the weekend or going to see him or him coming over. And he'd be like, well, I'm just saying, like, I always make the effort to go to you. Why are you choosing your family over me? But then would say, oh no, I would never make you choose me over your family. No, because I know how important family is.
Yep.
But you made it seem like it was something like it made it seem like me choosing my family was so hurtful to him and our relationship. So it was a point in time where I hadn't seen my family in like a month.
I remember that.
And like it makes me want to cry sometimes. And I hadn't seen my family in like a month.
Yeah.
And it was like only like phone calls and me being like, yeah, I'll be like home soon. And he'd be like, well, we have plans, remember? we made these plans. And then I feel guilty.
Do you ever think that he would do that, like, intentionally? Like, hear you be like, because as somebody who we lived like 10 minutes away from each other during most of this relationship, 10 minutes max. And it's like, I'd go long periods of time. We wouldn't see each other. Yeah. Unless we had a class or something together, we wouldn't see each other. But as you said, like, family is a huge part in your life. And I doubt that you wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, I want to go see my family next weekend. So it's like a few hours later, hey, do you want to do this on like Friday? Do you want to do this on Saturday? You know, just like,
yeah.
And then being like, oh, but we made plans.
No, it was definitely not that, because I understand, like, I'm also very much like a person that like respect my time, respect like when we make plans. So it'd be kind of like, oh, I had plans to like go see my family this week, and he'd be like, well, I was thinking we should go do this instead. And I was like, okay, but like I kind of want to see my family. He goes, okay, yeah, I get it. Your family's more important than me. I just, you know, when is the next time I'm gonna see you? And you're going off to Europe, so like, I'm just saying, like, it just seems like...
That's crazy, because at that point, you guys are seeing a lot of each other, too, right? Like, you guys were seeing each other, like, every day.
Yeah, he would, like, come to my apartment a lot, and, like, he would spend the night, and, like, my roommates basically just got used to him. I felt like he was, like, the fourth roommate at that point. And yet he would also still make comments about how he would do all the driving, and how he hated driving, and that he hated the fact that I would never make an effort. Keep in mind, he lived with his parents at one point. So, like, what am I gonna do? We're not like parents' room. Like that's so awkward.
Oh my god.
She said, "You come here for a reason."
Right. And aren't those the same parents that he hates?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, when I thought you would want to be away from them.
But God forbid I don't make like, literally, it was a point where like I didn't get that much sleep because he would like basically guilt trip me into like staying the night at his like place and like make me like drive like in the morning to go to work.
I remember that. You would drive to like all the way to his place and then have to wake up at God knows what hours in the morning to get to a 10 a.m. or an 8 a.m. shift. And I was like, this driving cannot be normal.
Well, because he would then like use it as like well, I make this drive for you all the time. Because he worked like very like early hours, and he'd be like, well, I always have to drive like over 2 hours to get in the morning, so I have to wake up at like this time. So like I don't get why you can't do the same. I'm like, nobody told you to
get like a competition of sorts, like.
Yeah, I'm like, no one told you to take that damn job. First of all, like you did not have to like wake up early if you didn't want to. Second of all, I didn't tell you to do this. You know what I mean?
Were you also in school? Like, we're all the same age. Like, we're all in classes during this time too. It's not like all you're doing is the work. It's a lot of balancing.
Yeah, like I had classes at that time, and like I was trying to like balance everything, and it was like he was trying to make it seem like I needed him and he should be my priority, but his words were always going to be like, no, never make me I'm not the priority. His actions, his words would say, you know, oh, like you like don't ever feel like you have to choose your friends or your family over me. Don't ever think you have to choose this or that over me. Like, I'm very understanding, but in reality it was like, no, you
so it's easy at that point in time to like get kind of confused in your own head when you're in like a manipulative relationship. This is gaslighting at its finest, like gaslighting 101. So it's like you might be feeling inside, you're like, I mean, he's saying this, but I know he's gonna get mad if I don't do what he wants. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so it makes it seem like what you're doing is your decision, when it's like, I would never have made that decision had you not put it in my head that it was not like okay to make a different decision.
Yeah, 100%. I remember calling you and being like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm so scared to tell him. Near the end of our relationship, we had made plans, I think on a Saturday, because my family and I don't go out much just because they're always working. So like the family time that we always have is very precious. And my dad was like, we can't do Friday anymore, but we can do Saturday if you can, like, because I told him they hadn't known I got back together with my boyfriend. They, you know, I just told him I had to work. That's why I couldn't do it. Which also I think says a lot too if I have to lie about where I'm going. But I was like, you know, yeah, like let me call off work and I can make it work. And And I called you and I was like, I'm terrified to tell him.
God.
I'm terrified to tell him that I can't do it. And I remember calling him and I was like sobbing and I was like, please don't be mad at me. Like, please don't be mad at me. Like, I tried to talk to my parents and I tried to make it this day, but they just said they couldn't. And he'd be like, no, it's okay. It's fine. But would say it in like such a like,
no, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm not,
excuse me.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm so
No,
sorry.
but it's like, he
But,
sounds like a parent.
What?
Yes.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Just like how.
But let's think about the context of his disappointment. Because somebody that you hang out with so much that he is the fourth roommate
Literally.
is
You don't see your
disappointed.
best friends for God knows how long.
Is disappointed that you would hang out with your family.
Yeah.
Who you'd not been hanging out with to hang out with him.
I feel like that tells you everything you need to know about the kind of
Right.
person that he was. And it's like,
Right.
I feel like this was something that was easy. Tell me if I'm right. That was easier for you to see because at this point you had kind of been like, okay, this relationship, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, 100%. Because like, I mean, he would say things like this prior and I legitimately would cancel like plans. Like I literally would be like, oh, I can't do it. Like I can't come because I have work or I'm sick or I'm this. Just so he would not be mad at me. And just so we can have like a moment of bliss. Because at this point, like, it was like every day we were like fighting. Every day he'd be calling me names and making me feel so bad. So I just wanted, like, I was basically doing anything just to be okay
Keep
in
the
this
peace.
relationship. Yeah, like I was just like, if I can, even if it means sacrificing like my moments of happiness to at least feel some kind of like stableness and peace in this relationship, then so be it. Because at this point, like, I think a big part of me kind of made peace with like the fact that this was going to be my future.
I was about to ask about that. So it sounds like from the way that you're talking right now, it sounds like you know that the relationship wasn't good at this point.
Yeah.
You're not even sure if it was like really salvageable. Like you were doing everything to kind of maintain the peace.
Yeah.
But you were still gonna stay with him, from what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through that kind of thought process, like what was going through your head at this point?
Well, I don't like to admit when I'm wrong. So I think I'm a very stubborn person, even when I don't want to admit it. So I think a little bit of it was me not wanting to admit to the fact that this relationship, something that I've been wanting for so long, was going to be the thing that ended me, basically. And before, when things like I'm very much a person to try to look at like, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. So I try to keep that perspective, and I always tried to keep all the good memories. So whenever anything bad happened, I'd be like, well, he was so nice to me. So trigger warning. I suffer with like an eating disorder here on and off. And he did this one thing where he like erased the calories on the back of like my candy.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
So like he
yeah.
took a Sharpie and like blocked
Okay,
it out.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Got you.
Yeah, so it made me like, it was moments like that made it seem like he was so sincere and loved me, that this future that we had together was something that I still wanted. And he would also reassure me that that's what I wanted, if that would make sense.
I think what's like so eye-opening to me about that is like we're hearing all the like awful things really that he would say or like do or act towards you, and it was like simple things like blacking out calories on the back of something was something that was like you were holding on to so much that you're like, you know, like somebody like this, he can't be that. You know, like it's the fact that like something so little you're like, and this is why I'm staying. You know, like love can really do that to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like we don't see a lot of explanation for why people stay in toxic cycles and really bad relationships. And it's so eye-opening to hear from somebody who was in one, like how you can do all of this, but the small gesture, it's like, I'm going to hold on to that piece in my heart. And that's why I'm going to keep giving you a chance. Do you think he knew that? And that's why he kept doing the stuff he was doing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was open to him about the fact that relationships in the past have always been very like one-sided. And I'm a very simple person. Like, I come from a very like simple family and a simple background. Like, I don't need like something extravagant to show me that you love me. You know what I mean? So he took that and like ran with it. Like, he made sure that like even on the worst day, there was a pocket of happiness, a little moment to where I would only ever look at that one moment of happiness and be like, he can't be all bad. You know what I mean? He did this for me. He did that for me. He can't be bad. And at some points he would make me feel sorry for him too. You know, like, I'm a sympathetic person. I like to think I'm pretty empathetic. So he would use sad parts of his life and use that kind of like as a way to make me be like, look at everything I've gone through. Like, give me a break. You know what I mean? Like, like, my mommy hates me. You know like
y'all know how I feel about that. I can't stand people who just want charity, but because I don't date charity. I can't lie. I'll pray for you. I will.
No, I said you said the other day.
I know I will pray. I'll get on my knees and pray for you, but that's about the most you're gonna get from me. Yeah.
I'll light a candle in your name, babe.
Right.
Even then, it'll be like a little one. I'm not spending a whole dollar on a big one.
If I still went to church, I would talk to my pastor about you.
God,
I know this one person, this one brother in Christ who just needs some prayer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Put him on your list, please. But
Pray for him tonight.
That's the most you're getting. But yeah, I mean, like, these are all tools of a master manipulator. Like, I remember watching the R. Kelly documentary.
Not the R. Kelly documentary.
I'm sorry that I went there, but but how, like, in the beginning, when he would, like, you know, be with these, I guess, girls, like, how he was always so charming, charismatic, like, just such an amazing person. And then, like, they couldn't understand, like, when that flip, when the switch flipped, when he flipped the switch, like, they couldn't understand how this evil person was also this charming person initially, and they were just holding on to who they initially met, and that's why a lot of them stayed. So it's like, kind of hearing your examples, it sounds basically the exact same.
Yeah, and it makes it also seem like this, like, it makes it seem like it's your fault. You know what I mean? Like, you caused the switch. And so you look back at yourself and you're like, what happened to this caring and loving, charismatic boyfriend that I knew in the beginning? And how did he all of a sudden turn into this man who's making me feel like a shell of myself? Like, I would look at myself and I'm like, I feel like I've gotten like 10 years older. Like, I feel like I've aged. I feel like...
No, because there were times where I would sit with you and just like watch you have a conversation with him. And I'm like, she is tired.
So tired.
Yeah, I remember the one we listened to.
That's literally that. It plays in my head. I'm like...
I was like, oh my.
Like, we sat there and we were just like looking at you and we were like, oh wow, that's not Evelyn.
I was doing some like ab workouts and I was like, I was doing like the little Russian twist. I was like,
he'd say something and she'd pause. She'd be like,
yeah, I was like, oh,
Aisha, give the phone to her. Give it to her. Like,
I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd be doing something like a plank or something, and I just hear like him crying. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
just like. Hey.
And I think that's what's like so embarrassing is like my friends ended up getting dragged into it. And you know what I mean? Like, if my friends were to ever get dragged into anything, I want it to be in a positive, loving thing. Because you know what I mean? I don't want any negative energy onto the people that I love. So I would always try to contain it as much as possible. Trigger warning. So I remember one time he called me because he was mad that I posted a photo, and it was like a photo of me at the aquarium. It was literally like, it was not a thirst trap under any means. Like, it was just like a cute little funny picture.
At the aquarium.
It was at the aquarium.
There's only so much you can do.
That's what I'm saying. Just act like you were at the club.
No, literally. Like, and it was in the middle of the day.
Right.
And it wasn't even the Atlanta aquarium. It was like the Tennessee aquarium. Like, so it wasn't even the big one. Like,
not
it was
Chattanooga. Not Chattanooga.
So I like visited it. And he was like, you're showing your ass like a whore on this like, story. Like, who has been in your DMs? Literally, one person slid up, and it was like an old friend from high school. And and she's just like an old family friend, and she was the only one that slid up.
Dang.
And he was like, I bet you deleted some of the DMs. I was like, dude, I literally don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna name drop. Anais is like my biggest supporter. Like,
Anais is so funny.
like that's my ride or die. She slid up and she said booty, and I said, "Purr, yes, queen." Like that's all what my DMs were. So I like hung up after he said that because I was like, I'm not gonna put up with this. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think it was like this week before my spring, like week of my spring break. I'm like, I'm on spring break, girl. Like. No negative energy.
Flip phone.
Go put that shit D&D. Like, also, it was like dinner time too. Like, I'm ethnic, so we eat hella late. You know what I mean? Like, which also he got mad at. Let me just be honest. He was mad that I did eat dinner at like 6 p.m. 6 p.m. is a dinner, dude. Like, that is not dinner.
Yeah. Please.
Not dinner.
It's like 11 and I still haven't had dinner.
No,
so
literally.
That's what I'm saying. So, anyway, yeah. So, I put him on D&D, and then he called me, and he's like, I'm gonna jump. And I said, what? You're gonna what? He was like, I'm on top of this building, and I'm going to jump Evelin. I can't do this anymore. And had a psychotic break.
Wait, that's how he did it? That's how he said it? I'm going to jump?
Yeah, he was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna jump. And I was like, I remember not believing it at first, because I was like, dude, this cannot be happening. Like, this cannot be happening.
So much better than me. I would have hung up that phone. Like, what is he talking about now?
Like the Peppa Pig meeting was like,
Do you know what time it is? Call me in the morning.
Right. Here he go.
like, this can't wait until after dinner, dude. Like, I haven't even eaten.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, he calls me and is like, I'm gonna jump. And at first I don't believe him, right? Because I'm like, dude, kidding. Like, whatever. And I like FaceTime call him. He's literally like showing me the ledge that he's on and like showing me how like high it is, and basically being like, I can't do this, and has like a mental breakdown on the phone where he like believes that like I'm his car. He believes that
you're
like
his car?
Yes.
Like
his
vehicle?
like vehicle.
Automobile?
No, you know how like cars, you now like the newer cars, the like GPS and stuff like that, like it'll talk to you.
Yeah.
So you thought you were Siri?
Yeah, he thought like I was like his car. Like being like, no, it's me, it's Evelyn, like come on. And he thought like he was like back in like he thought he was with his friends, so then he was like pretending like acting as if his friends were there. And I remember crying and sobbing and being like, I'm about to watch my boyfriend like jump off this building. Like I am like making peace that I'm about to be like a widow at some point. Like
not a widow. Evelyn was already married into this
like at
relationship.
this point I might as well have been married. So, like, I literally thought that, like, I was going to watch my boyfriend jump and I was going to be a widow. So, I remember calling, like, my friend, which is why I feel bad. Like, my friends ended up getting dragged into my issues. But, like, my friend took time out of her day and called hotlines, called police until finally they got him. And they basically, like, took him in and held him in, like, a mental hospital for 72 hours. And he told me that he memorized, like, my phone number. But he memorized my phone number just to tell me that he would never forgive me. Like it was, like, so...
Can we get some gratitude?
No.
Can we get a thank you?
How dare she?
Mm-mm. I'm literally
So he
the
called
devil
you.
incarnate.
So, my question is, so obviously suicide, like, you know,
It's not a topic to joke about. This
right,
is so
but
It's
like
very serious.
he called you just, it was like to let you know, or was it so that you could watch him die?
I
There's so
don't
many
know.
things
Because
don't
of
make
the
sense
picture
to
you
me.
posted at the aquarium.
So leading up to that, like, we were fighting a lot. Like, we were fighting a lot to a point where, like, every night he would call me and we'd have maybe, like, not even an hour of, like, relationship time. And it would turn into, like, a screaming match about him being not good enough for me, that I was gonna go, like, see other people, that I was going to, you know, cheat on him because that's all women do. That's all I will ever do because that's all I ever am.
And this is all coming from him.
This
right?
is all
Like,
coming from a man who's supposed to love me. You know what
no,
I
and
mean?
he's the one. Like, you're not saying anything that alludes to this. Like, he's just saying
Oh, yeah.
this.
Correct. Yeah. He believes all women are cheaters and liars. And because I'm a woman and I identify as a woman, I am therefore a cheater and a liar.
Thing is, what's crazy to me, he's willingly choosing to be with you at this point. Like,
nobody
is like forcing him. He didn't sign a contract. There's nothing keeping, but he's like willingly choosing to deal with all of this disrespect that you're throwing his way. For what? Like, my thing is, like, what do you gain from doing something like this? And I'm not gonna poke holes in this story.
Yeah, no.
I'm not. It's just things. If he thought you were his car, why did he FaceTime you?
Yeah.
Well, this is before. Like it's not funny. It's not funny. But like he called me what I can assume conscious, and made the conscious
like kind
effort.
of subconscious break.
Yeah. And then maybe not even mid conversation, that's when he had that like psychotic break where he was like, didn't even know who he was, like didn't know who I was for a little bit, like was just like basically talking like gibberish and nonsense to a point where like I didn't even recognize.
And then when you called, made sure he got help afterwards. Was he lucid when he was like going after you, or?
I think he was like half lucid, to be honest with you. He, according to medical records, I won't go into detail because HIPAA, you know, HIPAA. So, I think he was like half lucid by the time he like called me. According to like his medical records, again HIPAA, but like from what he's told me and from I think little glimpses I've seen, he was sleep deprived. He had not had a good few hours of sleep. I think he hadn't slept in like maybe a good 48 hours. He had like little naps here and there, but like not had full sleep. And I could tell. I could tell that the person I was talking to wasn't my boyfriend.
Lord.
And and keep in mind, this is kind of I think the really start of it and the start of when it started to get very, very bad. But yeah, he hadn't slept in a good few days, and he called me and he was just like, Evelin, I'm never going to forgive you for this. I'm so mad at you. I told you not to call the police. I told you not to do this. I am so mad at you and I will never forgive you. But I love you.
It's the ending every aggressive thing that he could possibly have said with, but I love you.
I have a question. Do you believe that he loves you or loved you?
I believe he loves in a version of myself that he created in his head, as like stupid as that sounds. Because I think, like I mentioned earlier, he hated a lot of the stuff that made me. Like I'm a very bubbly and outgoing person. Like I'm a social butterfly, I like to think. And he is not. And he hated that about me. He hated the fact that I like to go out. He hated the fact that I had male friends. He hated the fact that I just was me. And he liked the parts of me that he created. He liked the fact that I loved him unconditionally because that's, according to him, something he'd never experienced before. So I think to an extent he loved me, but I think he loved the way that I loved him more than than me, actually. He didn't love Evelin. He loved Evelin's love.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds a lot like I don't love everything about her, but I love her, so I'm going to create the person that I want to be with.
Yeah.
No matter what it takes. And do you think he was succeeding at creating that person?
I think if I kept going, yeah. I think I lost myself a good bit, and I didn't do the things that really brought me joy anymore. Like oh my God, he made such a comment where he was like, I get insecure that you work out because I don't want you to like be hotter than me or something like that. Or because he was
already too late for that.
He was saying that I was going to demasculate him. And I was like, I'm literally 4'9". How am I a 4'9" Latine, whatever the gender neutral thing for Latina is, woman? How am I going to overpower a 5'10" white man? I lift like 10 pounds at the gym, dude. Like,
I'm weak.
I'm still on Latini.
And they're acting like you're doing like, he's acting like you're doing like CrossFit.
She is.
Like, the muscle up.
no, like, I don't think you're gonna like
lifting the tires.
Y'all don't see the biceps on this one?
Right.
Y'all don't see
Right.
it?
You guys should see my calves. They're so toned.
You guys should be afraid of her. She
Yeah.
will emasculate you. Like,
I made it to green belt, white stripe in Taekwondo. So
period.
How old were you?
Period.
Please, this was not recent.
I was like 11.
That's recent enough. It's in the past decade.
But like I broke like a yellow board. I think. Yeah, like it was like one of those
That
that
was
like
not real wood.
no, it wasn't. It was like the one that detached in the middle.
That was more than enough. More than enough to just terrify him.
Exactly.
Terrify.
I looked scary in that uniform. Like I said,
I'm weak.
it's over.
Between
I'm
that
actually weak.
and her being Latini, I just...
Like,
She's
terrifying.
horrifying.
Scared.
I'm shaking,
Scared.
quivering in my boots.
Right.
Wow.
Evelyn came in and I was just like, I had to bow down.
No,
I was like,
literally.
I don't know what she's gonna do to me.
Why do you think I'm sitting so far away? And
Right.
I don't want to accidentally bump into it.
I know.
You don't want to see me when I'm angry. I turn into like the hot.
Oh my
You
god.
want all this?
No, I feel like on the real though, like, you know, as you can tell, like, humor is a good way that she and her friends have chosen to, like, you know, kind of cope with this situation.
Yeah.
But this is a really scary thing for anybody to go through. I'm sure you're still reeling from the aftermath, the aftershocks of this earthquake of a
Oh,
relationship.
100%.
And I just, that's just so crazy to me that, like, at our age, you know, we're young, we're 21, you know, we were born in the 2000s. This isn't like, we're babies in the grand scheme of things, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the fact that I feel like this kind of highlights, we talked about emotional maturity when going into a relationship. We talk about knowing yourself before going into a relationship. And I think you hit so many key points that we've talked about in other episodes that, like, if you're not here, like, at that point, you can be in a disastrous relationship towards yourself and towards others. Because from what we're hearing, you know, a lot of it, it's a lot of he did this, all these horrible stuff to you. And it's just so crazy because we're seeing the impacts that somebody else can have on another person.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of what we talk about is what we've gone through and what we've, like, you know, interactions we've had or what our sides of things. But, like, we're seeing the aftermath of somebody else's infractions upon somebody. And I feel like it just emphasizes how people need to be mindful.
Yeah. Very.
Very much so.
What would you say, having been through kind of catastrophic relationship,
Yeah.
what are your red flags now? What are the little things that you're looking for that you're going to be mindful of when you're interacting with people in the future?
First of all, Scorpios. No Scorpios ever again. My dad's a Scorpio and I love my dad, but beyond that, no more Scorpios in my life. But on a real note, I think it's definitely the way that they go about solving their familiar issues and, like, their own issues within themselves. And the way they choose to talk about them too. It's just the way that they treat people around them that are not, like, their immediate friends. Because I think it's very telling of how not only they treat their body and themselves, but the way that they treat people and the way that they treat basically just strangers. You know what I mean? I think that's very telling of a person. Also, the way that they treat their parents. I think, like, you don't have to have a good relationship with them, because I know, like I mentioned, it's complicated, but it's about going about that and trying to, I guess, be respectful in a way. Because if you don't respect the people who have birthed you, then that's like a very big red flag for me. I'm trying to think. I think just him is a red flag. Like, I don't, like, everything about him really has just been a red flag. I'm going to be honest, like, this relationship has kind of, like, taken a toll on me where, like, every red flag that I had in my brain has just kind of mushed into one thing, which is him. If it's a man that resembles him in any sense, it's a no. If the way that they speak resembles the way that he speaks, it's a no. If he surrounds himself with like the friends that he had, it's a no. Which his friends, low-key incels. Like if that's also really telling. Like if his friends are not good people, and the way that they treat women, immediately no. Like you, like the people you surround with are a reflection of you, and that's like something you really need to look out for. Yeah, I just all my red flags are kind of like stuck together. So
I think that's really fair, though. I mean, if you sit long enough and you let a person tell you about themselves, they'll tell you about themselves.
Oh, for sure. You can't. No one can hide. It's impossible to hide. It's impossible.
That's why he started.
That's why he started. But that's why he started acting up, is because you started to see his truest form, and he had to do whatever he could to keep you in spite of that.
So, hearing what she said, what are some red flags for you?
Oh, I have a lot of red flags. A lot of controversial red flags. I would say the one we talked about, I referenced earlier, which is my most controversial one, is like charity, pity is not attractive to me, like whatsoever. I've had like the one example that I'll give is like, it was a while ago. It was like probably a couple years ago, but like this guy was telling me about how like he just got cheated on by his girlfriend of like 3 years or something. Mind you, this was like after a "How are you?" like the first "How are you?"
Oh God.
And then
Teddy violin.
his mom was and his mom was in the hospital with like cancer. And I was like, I think maybe he just wanted to like vent, but I was just like, oh my God, that's like awful, and soft ghosted. Just because like I feel like when you are trying to like extract certain levels of pity from me very early on, I'm like, okay, are you gonna just hang all of these bad things that have happened to you over my head to make me feel like I have to be better than all the other people and like be the best for you? And I just don't have the energy for that. I would say, what are my other red flags? I have a lot of lighter red flags than that one.
That's like the biggest one.
That's
like
the
reddest of the flags.
Yeah, it's one of. I think it's like my most controversial one that people won't like to hear, but it's definitely one that I pay attention to. I don't really encounter it a lot, but like I pay very close attention.
I think that's a reason to pay more attention to it, because it's not something you see often.
Right. And because people, I really do feel like there's some people out there who might tell you like, oh, I'm going through a lot, but they're not going to like ask anything of you. But my thing is like, in an early conversation where neither of us know each other, why else would you tell me that?
I'm not your therapist.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you can go to a therapist, like an actual one.
Like what possible positive intention? Like you could have told me this maybe a couple weeks in when we actually know each other and know that we like each other. And I don't want to have those things in the back of my mind when I'm supposed to be evaluating you. Like I don't want to evaluate your trauma. I want to evaluate you as a person, whether or not I like you. Another red flag, I don't know, I spent so much time thinking about that one, I can't even think about all the others because there's a lot of others. I would say one of them is just like, as a dark-skinned black woman, if I'm the first dark-skinned black woman that you've ever talked to, I don't talk to anyone who isn't black, so there's that. But like I just feel like as a black man, like I should not be your first. Especially at this age. Fair. Maybe if we were like 15, like and you've never dated anyone before, that's like understandable, but like, you know, I'm 21 now and I don't talk to anyone who's younger than 20, so you've had plenty of time to have like at least talk to others. So like when I hear like, oh my God, you know, like I just discovered, you know, that black is beautiful, and I've been talking to blonde hair, blue-eyed women for like, you know, 8 years, but now I'm realizing that like, you know, you guys are beautiful too. I'm just like, ew, no. And most of the time, like every time a guy has said that to me, later down the line, I see that they're still with a white girl. So I'm like, okay, so you really just reverted. Because usually they're like, white girls they're just evil, and they because they probably just broke up with one.
No, literally.
Yes.
It's like, I'm not asking you to hate white women.
Oh,
Why
I'm
are
really-
you coming to me on all this
red
negative
flag.
energy about them? Like,
I personally just don't care, and I'm just not going to be your first. That's that. You need to go date some other black girls
I
first.
think they
maybe.
think it's endearing.
I think they do. I'm just like, because
It's
like,
just like, you changed me.
my issue is
take
that
it as
like
a compliment.
I think some black guys or some black men think that I'm supposed to be like a white girl to them, and I'm not. Like, I'm not at all. And so you're gonna take those experiences and then project it onto me and be like, well, why aren't you like this, or why aren't you doing this? I'm like, because I'm not her. And like, don't come to me, a black woman, asking me to act like a white woman. It's just not gonna happen. I'm trying to think about others. I think people who just can't control themselves. Like, I feel like love and all these emotions and attractions, these are very volatile emotions that can get very out of control. So I don't do raising of voices. I don't do cursing. I don't do any of that. Like
at you.
At me at all. Right. Like, if it's anytime I've had a conversation, I've not had a lot of arguments with people like this, but like anytime I've had a conversation where a voice is raised, I immediately log off. I'm like, okay, so you're not understanding what I'm talking about. You're not hearing me right now. We can talk when you're like feeling better or when you've like reflected on this, but not tonight. Because I feel like if you can yell at me, you can shove me. You can shove me. You can slap me.
You can slap me.
You can punch me.
Yeah.
You can punch me. You can stab me. You can stab me. You can shoot me. And you can shoot me. You can throw a grenade at me.
Why are they getting military grade weapons, girl?
Sorry.
This is Georgia. You know when you go. You know when you go like, what's that? It's like Milton, like the Cherokee Milton line. Do you know how the Cherokee Milton line? There is a military like war shop.
My dad went in there once to buy pants.
Evelyn White.
Okay.
Did he like the pants?
The outlet mall is literally 15 minutes away.
Listen, he wanted those pants.
I don't think he found it.
Right.
This was probably an emergency.
Yeah.
He wanted some good working pants. I don't know.
Honestly, fair.
You know, I
I
think
still feel like the outlet mall.
I'm on his side. Okay, I get it. He said, I need something that can reflect a grenade.
I need military grade pants. I'm working in these fields.
But yeah, no, my point is that, you know, I just feel like you have to be able to control yourself and just be able to manage your own emotions because like these things, like they can be stressful and you might be feeling jealous, insecure, da, 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 da. I'm not going to demonize you for feeling those things, but you need to be able to say that I'm feeling those things. I can't do immaturity and I can't do screamers, criers, none of that. You're not going to get anything out of me but a blocked number.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like everything else is just like, we'll just, you know, see it how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're really inconsistent.
Things
like,
are more personal to the relationship.
Yeah, like, but those are like my, like.
Generic.
Yeah, like, absolutely not. What about you, Aisha?
I think I said this to you, I think both of you guys the other day. One of mine is the high level attachment in the beginning. Like, I've had multiple people. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But I've had multiple
Because you be
people.
talking to them on Snapchat. That's why.
I don't want them to have my number.
Red flag if they ask you for your Snapchat first.
Most of the time, I ask them, like, if they ask me for, like, a number or something, I give them my Snap because I feel like a phone number is a little too personal for me sometimes.
No, because I'm just
fair.
saying that the reason why they're talking to you like that is because Snapchat, like, A, you can't really screenshot,
Yeah.
and B, like, people just are weird on Snapchat.
That's so fair.
Like, I feel like over iMessage, like, people just have a little bit more decorum.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
that
I
much,
agree.
but just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. It's easier to get caught for like showing people things or something like that. Like if they know that their behavior is going to be monitored, they're going to act different. And I get a lot of people who in the very beginning, they're just like, they get so offended if I don't respond to them in a certain amount of time, or like they feel like I'm not attached to the conversation. It's like, we started texting 2 days ago. You don't know me. You don't know how I...
WYD.
Every time. My thing is, like, if we were having, like, you don't know me, so you don't know how I interact with people. You don't know how I conversate with people. And you're hurt that I'm not essentially just doing what you would do in that situation. It's like, you're not dealing with you. You're dealing with a completely different individual who doesn't know you.
Right.
So it's like, no, I'm not going to respond the same way that you would respond to somebody. I have completely different things going on in my life than you do. So for me, like, that's like a very big red flag.
All right.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, like, I just feel like if you expect the majority of my time when we're first talking, like, we all have things going on in our daily lives, and I'm never going to ask you, especially that early on, to put aside what you have going on to, like, attend to me. So just because you don't have anything to do and you want to message me, that doesn't mean that I should have to drop everything I'm doing to respond to you. You have no idea. Yeah, I haven't responded to you in a couple of hours. I didn't know you a couple of hours ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's like a really big red flag to me, because I feel like if they're that dependent upon your time without really knowing you, imagine what will happen when you have, like, decided I'm going to enter a relationship with this person.
Yeah.
Now they do have what's the word I'm looking for? Now they are, like,
There's sort of a level of
to your time.
sort of level of obligation.
Exactly. So they're allotted not only some of your time but direct access to you. So it's like, if you're acting this crazy before we even know each other, what are you gonna do when we're dating? That's like a huge red flag for me. That's like one of those things that, like, if you're doing that in the beginning, I'm not looking at you as a serious option.
Yeah, I think there's just like a certain level of like entitlement that some people have, and it's just like, I don't know where you got this impression from, but like, I usually like am very quick. I'm like, listen, you're not a priority. If anything, like, you are
It's
last.
the passive aggressiveness though
Yeah.
for me.
No, it is.
Because it's like, I've had people hit me up. One time I had this conversation with this guy, and he was upset that I wasn't responding to him. Keep in mind, it was like, I think it was during the summer, and I was taking, for reference, 4 classes. I was taking over a full-time load, like, for like college classes over the summer, because full-time is considered 6 credit hours in, like, for the summer. I was taking 12 credit hours. I had no time for my family. There were days that my parents didn't see me and literally thought I was not home. Like, but I was, like, in my room just doing stuff. And he would get so passive and be like, oh, I thought you, like, died or something. Or, like, oh, I thought, like, something happened to you. And I'm like, I didn't answer you for a couple of hours because I was doing a test. But you don't deserve that information, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have to explain myself to you this early on.
Yeah.
And when I was like, I peeped it for like a couple of days. Keep in mind, we weren't having any serious or like really meaningful conversations. It was a lot of, hey, how are you? How's your day going?
It's never.
Exactly.
Never is.
And we were having a lot of really just filler conversations. I was like, listen, I think you're looking for something a little more serious than what I'm looking for, and I can't give you that time right now. I'm so sorry. And he acted like I was crazy for that. He was like, well, I'm not asking you to marry me. And I was like, you might as well be.
Yeah.
You're asking me to marry my time.
Yeah.
And I can't give you that. So that's like one of those, like, I don't know if that's controversial, but if you're that like that in the beginning, like, I can't consider you as a serious option.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as a very valid red flag for sure. Very valid. I don't, like I said before, it's the entitlement. I don't quite know where it comes from. I don't know what the origins are for it for some of these people, but like, hi Spencer.
Bro.
I'm here to donate you $2.
For what? You had to do this right now.
Yeah, and I need a charger, like,
Oh my god.
right now. So.
Every episode without
There's not been a single one. Either he's a guest star in the episode or he's just like popping up.
Hey! The disrespect is palpable.
Okay, bye, Negro.
Can you close the door fully, please?
Close.
It's not.
He scared me so much. Oh, I saw.
Like, why did
I
he
didn't
open
see
it?
his face
Why didn't he
because
just knock? Terrified.
I didn't see. I just heard the, and in these you can't hear much.
Right.
So I just heard like a echoey creak, and I
No,
turned around and I just saw his shirt. I didn't even see him. I just saw
I
his
saw
shirt.
his
I was
face
like,
and I was just like, this
That was frightening.
I wouldn't. I didn't
Alright.
even notice him. I didn't even notice until you said something.
Child. But anyways,
I feel like there's a lot of people who are used to getting things their way. And because we only know how to attend to ourselves right now and we're learning how to, they don't know how to attend to other people. So people are going to impose upon you what they want rather than thinking of like what this person might need at that point in time.
yeah, I also think that like we're kind of evolving from like the middle school, high school kind of relationships into like what a more like adult dating routine sort of consists of. And so I feel like there's some people who are stuck in like the we need to Snapchat every 30 minutes and we need to have a streak, blah blah blah, where we're just sending photos, like exchanging photos back and forth. And then there's some people that are a little bit more refined, right? A little bit more elevated, a little bit more mature, and understand that like, you know, instead of doing all that, we can just go out on a date.
Or if you really just want to
Or
look at my
FaceTime
face
me
that much,
at
FaceTime
night.
me.
Yeah.
Like
But I'm not going to stop everything I'm doing to attend to you. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Not right now. When you become a priority in my life, when you've earned becoming a priority in my life the way that my family and my friends have, then I will allot my time for you.
Okay, so this is the last question, but are these red flags that we've all listed, are these redeemable? Like, say someone triggers that like from you, can they make a comeback?
The one I said, yes.
Okay.
And the way that they can make a comeback is normally I'm not just gonna like block you for doing that like the first time, because our communication like methods might just be different.
Yeah.
But if I come to you and I'm like, hey, I don't have the time to be this attentive towards you. If you want to keep talking, we can. But like, you know, this has got to dial down. And they do that. And they kind of keep up that same energy. Like they heard what I said. They didn't just like, they didn't hear me, but they listened.
Made the adjustment.
Then I know that then I have at least an inkling that you're an adjustable person. Like we can work things out. We can communicate. And I think I'd give you another chance. I would.
That's fair.
I would give a Scorpio a chance. I would. I really would.
Fair.
Like like jokes aside, like I think there's certain things that my ex partner did where I'm like, if you really took the time to genuinely fix it, I would be able to like give you a chance. Like if you actually communicated, you know, if like communication was an issue, like you were saying, like if you, you know, if I come to you on like hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me, and you actively change it and make an effort to, but not make an effort just to keep me, but genuinely you realize the issue and you're like, yeah, maybe she has a point, maybe this is an issue, then yes. But I think when it comes to like, I guess verbal like abuse and stuff like that, no. You know what I mean? Like if they can say it once, they'll say it over and over and over again until you either get tired of them or they win. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's no like in between.
I would say for me, I don't know, I'm just very avoidant. So sometimes people could potentially make a comeback, but I don't really give them a chance to.
Do you think if somebody who came to you and I'm going to focus on the trauma one that you were talking about, like the trauma dumping essentially. Do you think if somebody came to you and they did that and you like, you know, distance, you're like, okay, you got a lot going on right now. I don't think it's a good idea for us to talk. But they come back maybe a few years later and they're like, yeah, you know, I got my stuff together. Like you can see that they actively did. Do you think you'd be able to give them a chance considering it was like ended so early on?
In the event that happened, yes.
Okay.
I've had people try to make comebacks,
that,
and it's never.
But I'm saying, if somebody, you see the palpable proof.
Yeah. I feel like I think I'm not like
completely closed off. To the idea.
I think I would if you show that like, you know what, all the stuff that, you know, I've been through, it's not really, I don't want to say an active part of me, but like if it was clear that they'd like healed enough where we can have, you know, regular conversation and it's not something that's so heavy on them, I definitely would be open. Because now it's more of a clean slate at that point. Like, I feel like very early on, if you have like some trauma that like is hurting you to the point where like in the first conversation you're bringing it up, then like maybe you just need to take some time
Yeah.
away and just like at least away from me, you know, because I'm not really good with dealing with other people's stuff.
You can't be what they need you to be at that point in time.
I can't, and I never will.
Yeah.
Because what you need is a therapist, and I'm Sydney. I'm not that.
Sydney does not have a
I'm
PhD.
not a licensed therapist right
Right. I can maybe try to listen to you, but like again, it's just gonna be too much. It's gonna be too heavy, and I just
now. You need professional help
that's
there.
right. I'm trying to have a good time. Like I'm just trying to vibe, and like you're making me want to cry.
Yeah.
So I can't.
So what I'm hearing is collectively like, you can give a person a second chance, but
Yes.
at this point in where we're all at, it's like once you surpass that second chance, to be honest, for me, I'm not giving a third.
Even like the second chance is like I don't know.
You
You're
have to
kind of on
deserve-
probation, and like yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm watching you very closely. Type B.
Yeah. I completely get that. Well, I think this has been a very, kind of telling episode. We've
Very.
gone to some deep things. But to reiterate to you guys, this is the Safe Space podcast. We're a safe space. And just as our friends can come on here and share beautifully like what they've gone through, and we really appreciate that, Evelyn, because you never know that there's probably people out there who've gone through the same thing and don't know that they're in situations like that or don't know what to do about it. So I feel like thank you for coming on and doing that. We're always here to give an opening ear, and things will get better, guys. If any of the stuff that Evelyn said has like resonated with you, try to seek some like help.
Call
for
the
real.
domestic abuse hotline.
Yeah.
It's very eye-opening.
Like just
Yeah, and I mean this relationship lasted like 6 months, but I think that like even though there were moments where you did sort of distance or isolate yourself from your support system, like I feel like we were still there. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like
100%.
there was never a point where like it was so bad that you couldn't call when you needed to call, and I think that like that's the message that I hope people kind of absorb, is that like don't let your support system go. And like when you feel like something is off, like you're probably right. Like your intuition is gonna save you 100% of the time. So even though this was a deeper, darker episode from us, I do feel like the lessons were very important.
Yeah.
there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You just gotta
Right.
find your way there.
Don't be afraid to
Exactly.
ask for help, because that's a
Exactly.
thing that's like a really big thing I want people to take away, is like don't be afraid to ask for help, and it doesn't make you any less strong or any less of the person that you are if you ask for help. If anything, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And your support system, no matter how much you push them away, they're always going
If
to
they
be there.
care, they'll still
They're
be
gonna
there.
be there.
Right.
They will help you out of it. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. If there's anything you guys would like to add or, kind of unpack or anything like that, let us know in our comments, DM us. We have our socials on there. Evelyn gave you her social, I guess, by any chance. If somebody's in a situation similar to her and they want some advice or something, I don't know.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Always.
And make sure you guys like,
Follow.
subscribe, all of that stuff.
You guys have been doing so great about that recently. We love it.
I mean, it's really my mom.
We
but
love-
Carry a
shout out to my mom.
What's
she's
up?
been getting people to subscribe.
No,
so.
she's really been doing it.
Her.
And y'all are doing your thing on the Instagram reels, but
Right,
can we follow
right.
as well?
Right,
please?
right. Anywho, that's all we got. Thank you.